Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers. In today's video, we're looking at another small block exploration rover. This thing sitting right next to me is called the RV-103 Light Utility Rover, which is this lovely thing over here. So this is a very simple little vehicle. There's a lot of fun to drive around on the moon surface. It's just no risk of this thing ever blowing up on anything. It just bounces, glides through the air, and just a lot of fun to play around with. We have some fantastic use of our access panels on the front, acting as a front bonnet, so you can do some internal work if you want to tend to do that. We also got one on the back to open and close as you please. We've got some cargo containers on there, we've got some beacons, a spare wheel, and a nice compact design that makes it very easy to store. So pressing F10 and find this in the spawn menu, the Light Utility Rover is 102 small blocks using a couple of the DLC packs. We've got no information whatsoever, so simply give this a thumbs up, move around towards the very front, have a look around the outside, then we'll go through the controls, and I'll drive around on the moon surface to show you how safe this thing actually is. Of course, if you were to go on a planet with actual proper gravity, it'll be a completely different story, but being it was set up for moon exploration, it does a bloody good job at doing that. So, at the very front, the Light Utility Rover, what we got are a couple of beam blocks sitting on the side of our short suspensions. Above that, we can see some red armoured panels with some interior lights on the front there, to light up the darkness as we go around exploring. Then we can see on the left and right hand side, moving up just a little bit, if I can. Oh, my camera's not moving, there we are. Yes, we've got two seats to drive this thing around, both of them do the exact same thing, so it doesn't matter if one gets destroyed or not, or if your co-pilot with you wants to take over while you're doing something else. And it also means that if you're in an emergency, say escaping from some angry spiders or angry wolves that somehow got onto the moon, you can just jump to any seat and scoot away. If we move around onto the side, here we go, there's our wheel. Then into the middle there, a bunch of armoured panels just coming up the side of our cockpit. There's some fantastic use for neon tubes in a lovely rectangular shape that acts as a step up to get up in the inside. There's a transparent LCD screen, there's one on both sides, showing a little logo on there. And around towards the back there, even more great use of our armoured panels, just covering up the side of our trailer. We've got our cargo containers, our spare wheel, a beacon, and a few neon tubes just acting as a small fake antenna. If we go down here just a little bit, and behind the wheel we can see our batteries to give it a bit of power. Batteries are one of two ways to power this thing, where there is a reactor, but you don't have to use the reactor in the event you don't have access to uranium. So you've got some choices on there, depending on what you want to use. Then move around towards the very back, we've got two more interior lights, this time in a red colouring, acting as a brake light. There's our secondary access panel to play around with. This time there's nothing on the inside here, so there's no access point behind it, it's just there for role-playing purposes. All the way down to there, once again, our beam blocks on some short suspensions. Then moving all the way up and looking down, we then get a good view of our trailer, where there's a cargo container on both sides, with two smaller access panels on top for some decoration. There's our spare tile in the middle. Then attached onto this beacon right here, getting a bit closer, there's our neon tubes, just acting as a small fake antenna. And there we go. Moving along towards the middle, there's our two seats and how they've been set up. Then moving all the way to the front, there's our front access panel where we can just pop it open like our bonnet, and pretend we're doing work on the engine. Behind there we can see a small reactor, so all the way down here, there's a small reactor, onto the side, another battery, and all the way up and coming down and underneath it, here we go. Now we can clearly see that battery, a bunch of neon tubes so we can see the step up for the opposite side, how it's been connected up to the main body and gone all the way along for a odd bit of decoration that you wouldn't normally see unless you were doing backflips or front flips. Yes, there's a battery at the back of the ship with a gyroscope, which is very much needed if you are jumping around on the moon surface. And there is the bottom of our beacon, which is shining all brightly. Yes, if you are interested in Skybox currently using, it's called Golden Road. There'll be a link to it in the description below if you wish to download and play around with yourself. Highly recommend you do with that because it is a very bright Skybox. It does make things very pretty, especially if you're using a mod that removes the atmosphere from planets so you can clearly see the skyboxes at night. As for the little rover right here, that's it for the outside. It looks fantastic with how it's all been set up and has a nice lot of utility on there. A nice lot of space on there for you to upgrade with stuff if you wanted to. So we say if you want to have a antenna or ore detector, there's room at the back of the rover all the way around to here, so we can just plop them down next to this beacon, just remove that neon tube on that side, put down an ore detector, come to the opposite side, remove that bar in the block, slap down a antenna, then you just go and drive around and use it to scout ore patches. But now what I'm going to do is just grab hold of my character. It does not matter which seat we get into. I'm going to come into this one because it's closer. And just for a small demonstration, we can hop up onto that neon tube. Although it's going to be a bit wonky because I forgot I was on the moon. Don't know how I forgot I was on the moon. Anyway, into that seat, bring up the HUD. These are the controls we get. So number one is going to be to turn on and off our reactors in case we don't need it or don't have access to uranium. Number two is then for your batteries to auto or recharge, and that will shut off the power if you don't have the reactor turned on. Turning it back on. Number three is then for your lights at the very front of the ship. Can't actually see it because the lights directly onto them. But number four is then for your brake lights at the back there. Now turn them on and off as we please. Number 6, number 7, number 8 is for your beacon at the back to change its range, increase and decrease, and of course to turn it on and off. Then over to tab number 2, this is for your wheel suspensions, so you can adjust it to your pleasing. I'm going to leave it on 20%, that's what it spawns in with. And as for that, that's it for the controls, so all we got to do now is drive it around and see how it handles. So undoing the parking brake in first person view, hiding all of that because we really don't need it. It does have a set speed limit of about 20 meters per second, which makes it perfectly safe driving around here. And just means we're on the moon, it does not matter what happens, doesn't matter how recklessly we drive this thing. Look, I'm just going to do a bunch of front flips like that. In fact, it doesn't matter, let's go throw in a back flip like that. There we go, we just bounce down onto the ground, we damage nothing, then we just crawl up this hill and continue on our way. It's just so much fun to play around with because there's absolutely no risk whatsoever with this thing ever blowing up. And we just do massive jumps like that. And yes, like I said, there's no risk with this thing, just a lot of fun to play around with. So coming to a stop up here, hopefully I can actually make this stop. There we go, a little bit of tilting around using the gyroscopes. Up to there will do nicely. Now what I'm going to do is remove the speed limit, actually make this sit still. Here, control panel, finding our wheels all the way down. As you can put this all the way out to unlimited. What's going to happen with this is a very odd thing. Due to the way the wheels are being clipped into each other, as we come into the first person view and just start to move forwards once again, they will start to wobble quite violently to the point they will clip through all the blocks and act very scary. I have played around with this quite a lot, but there's no risk to this whatsoever. There we go, bring up the HUD, you see just how shaky this thing has become. There goes the wheels at the back there. I have no idea why this happens, but I've seen it on a few vehicles that have showcased. It's only started happening since the last major update, but still, even if we drive recklessly, even if we bump into a lot of stuff, it does not have any risk of blowing up or damaging any blocks. It simply gets very violent, very shaky, and will eventually sort itself out. So coming down to the ground, there we go, and just making sure it comes to a stop, we'll put the wheels back to where they were, and then we'll go down to the Earth-like planet. Okay, and here we are on the Earth-like planet to test out what's like in a full 1G of gravity. And as you can see, we're going up to about 30 meters per second. It shouldn't go too much higher than that. So we are capped on our speed limit with that. I think I put it back down to how it should have been. But yes, as you can see, it's very safe to drive around. There's not really any kind of lumps and bumps here. I would have loved to have had this area in a previous video. I don't know how I keep discovering these perfectly flat areas when I don't want to have them. Yes, unlike the moon, it's going to be a bit more riskier doing big jumps. It could blow up on any random little things. The wheels could just go very wonky very quickly and this whole thing flips out. As it stands right now, it seems to be perfectly stable, but this, in the distance, should be a perfect showcase of how stable this thing actually is, and well, how useful this thing will be for some light exploration. So here we go, we're now coming up the hill, and it should be a nice big jump. Hopefully there won't be any kind of nasty rocks pop in last seconds. So all the way up, 30 meters per second, we are slowing down a little bit, all the way over those little bumps, and we once again return to a perfectly flat surface. How do I keep doing this? So what I'm going to do now is come back to a very lumpy area. I'll try it over there. So here we go one more time. And I think this will be the last attempt at doing some kind of bumpy ride with this before I end the video because the vehicle is very self-explanatory and will should prove very well in survival mode and does look great with how it's been set up. That's very easily upgradable, like I said. In fact, you could even slap on some Gatling guns onto this, remove the access panels on top of the cargo containers, conveyor it up, put a Gatling gun on top, and there you go, you now got an assault vehicle to well deal with any kind of pirates, although you won't be able to aim up, so you may want to have a rotor on there, may want to have a hinge, so you can adjust it with that. So anytime now we're going to find a massive cliff edge, we're going to go flying over it. There are no parachutes on that. In fact, that's a very good idea to attach some parachutes on this if you want to use it on the Earth-like planet. On the moon, not so much. Anytime now, there's a tree, that should be the end of it. There it is, there's the cliff edge. And we're now going to do a very sharp turn all the way around. Here we go. Now we should go all the way down. And there we are, we're now going to fly off the edge, do a little bounce. There we go, a very big clonk. Now coming down like that, altering a little bit. We bounced all the way. How the hell did that work? I have no idea. We did damage the interior lights, but other than that, just like deformed a steel block, and now we are sort of stuck, just freed it. I need to rotate this all the way up using the gyroscopes. There we go. We're now going to continue all the way down. Another little bad crash, reversing this thing up. No damage whatsoever, though one of the steel blocks is smoking. Not too sure why that is going on. Now just gonna climb all the way over to this. First pass view, this is what it looks like. It's very scary, very wonky, though I am exceptionally impressed with how this thing is not blowing up, how stable this thing is, how strong this thing is. And while it is getting a bit topsy-turvy now, that sounded really bad. I don't know what blew up there, but we have now just got ourselves very much wedged. So hopping out of this, looking at the underneath there is very convenient. We lost a bunch of neon tubes, which is not the worst thing to happen. We've lost our gyroscope, so that explains why I can't flip this thing over. But other than that, it seems to be in roughly one piece. It's still perfectly drivable, still perfectly usable, and we'll live to fight another day. So yes, that is that for this video. That is that for the light utility rover. And well, looks like it's going to have a little tumble once again, so we're just going to spawn in the brand new one. There we go for the ending blurb. And yes, so be linked to execution below to just download and play around with yourself. I once again found a perfectly flat surface to drive on. And oh, I just realized we lost the back of the vehicle. That was the big explosion, so we did lose a lot more than I was thinking. Yes, as I was saying, there'll be linked to execution below to just download and play around with yourself. Highly recommend you do. I'll be back with another video some point soon. Bye bye.